I like to watch movies because they're funny.
You kind of escape.
Okay.
I like popcorn and Coke.
To see how the story ends.
Entertainment, that's the only way to go.
What's up, guys? On today's Feed Your Faith video, we're going to talk about movies.
Hey guys, before we get started with our movie selection, please understand these are not your Avatar production type quality movies, okay? But as Christian movies, they have so much more. They have a message of hope, which is what the Bible talks about. And that's why we want to encourage you to watch these 4 movies.
One movie I would recommend, one that I just recently watched, is I Still Believe. This is a biography of Jeremy Camp's life. Many of you may not know his story, but as a kid in college, he actually met a girl and decided to marry her, and she had some health problems, and she had some things going on that were really detrimental to her life, but he decided to stick with her. He decided not to leave her alone. He was right by her side the entire time until she eventually passed away. The powerful part is that even though after that happens, Jeremy Camp does not falter in his faith. He does not run away from God. He does not think less of God, but rather he sees the power and the beauty of what he witnessed, which is people gathering together to pray for her, and seeing her strength and seeing her vulnerability, and even seeing how in her last moments she knew that she was going to be with Christ, and she held on to that. Jeremy Camp went on to continue writing worship songs, to continue praising the Lord, and so I think this is a very powerful story. It's a really good lesson for us to learn, especially because it's based on a true story. It's the life that Jeremy Camp lived and is still living, and through this movie we can learn that through the hardest times of our life, even losing a spouse, we can still worship God, we can still see how faithful he was, and we can still depend on him to lead us.
So one of the movies that I would recommend is Courageous. Courageous is a powerful story about encouraging men to be the spiritual leaders that God has called us to be in our families. It's a very powerful movie. I would caution mom and dad to watch this movie first. There is some difficult subjects that are brought up during this film about children and death. So might be something you want to watch early so you can prepare yourself in case you want to watch this later with your child. But it's a very encouraging movie for us to step up as men and be the spiritual leaders of our household and take responsibility for where God has put us in our families as leaders, spiritual leaders of our home. So I encourage you to watch Courageous.
Another movie I would recommend is I Can Only Imagine. This is the life story of Bart Millard. Many of you may know who he is, but for those of you who don't, he is the lead singer of Mercy Me, a very well-known Christian band. I actually watched this in the Philippines, and it was really fun to watch. This is another great story about a man who is passionate about God, who was spending his time worshiping God, trying to catch traction as a worship leader among his community and wider in the U.S. And the whole time he's struggling with his relationship with his father. His father was not always there for him. His father was not always supportive of what he was doing. His father was not very entertained by the idea of him being a singer rather than working at home and working with his family. And so the whole time we just see this relationship and how over time it starts to grow, and over time it starts to get better, and they have their downfalls and it still struggles, but eventually during the movie his father actually accepts Christ. He sees the power of Christ in Bart's life and all that he's done in his life, and he surrenders to the gospel. His heart had been softened by Christ, and so soon after that though his father tragically passed away, which is very sad. And so obviously Bart was very upset because his father had just become a believer. He wanted nothing more than to be there to disciple him, to show him how to grow in his faith, and but his father passed away. And so if you know the song I Can Only Imagine, that song is actually about his experience after his father passed away, as he just wonders and hopes for the day that he can be with his father and to worship Christ together and to bow at his feet together with his father, something that he didn't get to experience while here on earth. This also, just like I Still Believe, it is based on a true story and based on someone's life. And so in both of these movies, again, we see the power of God, the strength that he has to push us through these hard times that we cannot even imagine.
Another movie I would strongly encourage you to watch, another good Christian movie, is called War Room. So this movie, I was kind of not wanting to watch it at first, not necessarily interested in the topic, because the topic is about prayer. And it's kind of one of those subjects that maybe is one of those things I need to still work on. This movie seriously challenged my prayer life as a Christian. And I would encourage you to watch it. It encourages us to do battle for our marriages on our knees, talking to God. It encourages us to do battle for our families, for our nation, for our children, on our knees, talking to God. Let God be the one that takes control of their lives. Many times we try to do those things ourselves. We try to fight those battles ourselves, and we become empty-handed, frustrated, and angry. But when we do things God's way, we get on our knees before Him, submit, and pray, and beg God to be real and reveal Himself in their lives. He does amazing, wonderful things. So I would encourage you. It's obviously a movie. It's based on a circumstance, but it's true, and we have it in Scripture. He tells us He does that. So we want to encourage you to take your prayer life seriously. And this movie will do that. It's a great movie. I encourage you all to watch War Room.
And those are 4 Christian movies that you can watch to feed your faith. So go out and watch them. Thanks for watching.